Today, we come together in celebration of a legend. Rock Merritt lived many lives, each of them exciting, each of them honorable, each of them a story unto itself. He was, of course, a World War II hero. That was the headline when he died last week. Rock Merritt, World War II hero, dies at home. And that is true. Distinguished Service Cross, wounded many times, D-Day, Market Garden, Battle of the Bulge. But World War II hero doesn't quite get it done when describing the story arc of Kenneth Rock Merritt. Paratrooper is another thing they called him. That gets us closer. He was the embodiment of the American Paratrooper archetype. The men of his cohort built that archetype. He was a brawler, a big personality, and an even bigger heart. All those things are in the bloodline of the American Paratrooper. But still, Paratrooper doesn't quite get us all the way there when describing this man. So, you think about what he did after World War II. He brought Fort Bragg and the 18th Airborne Corps into the post-war Army. As our 1st Corps Command Sergeant Major, he, along with a cadre of enlisted men who entered the service after the close of the war, built Fort Bragg into a platform for rapidly deploying forces. But he was bigger than that. You see, Rock Merritt was a figure in just about every critical cultural moment in American history of his time. He seemed to be there whenever something important was happening. I often think that if you look closely enough at an old photo of a historic event, you'll ultimately find Rock in the picture. The enrollment of the Little Rock Nine, Rock was there. The integration of Old Miss in 1962 that served as a springboard for the American Civil Rights Movement, Rock led the 82nd Airborne Division there. The major land battle phase of the Vietnam War, Rock fought there. The transformation of our Army into an all-volunteer force under Nixon, Rock led the 18th Airborne Corps through it. JFK, LBJ, Nixon, Rock met him. President Obama, President Trump, Rock met him. The 70th anniversary of D-Day, Rock represented the United States at Utah Beach. The opening of the All-American Hall of Fame, Rock was inducted in the inaugural class. This past weekend, I came across that iconic photo of the Apollo 11 moon landing on the internet. I somehow wondered, was that Rock underneath the helmet? So he was many things to many people for a sustained period. But all those things aside, Rock for me was foremost a master storyteller and a fiercely loyal friend. If anyone ever went to Rock's house unannounced, any time of day, any day, and knocked on his door, he'd bring you inside and make you a cup of coffee. And then he'd tell you about the time Jim Gavin visited his fighting position while he was freezing in the Ardennes. About the time Matthew Ridgway talked up the boys prior to D-Day. About the time President Kennedy visited Fort Bragg and was amazed to see a mass tactical airborne operation on Sicily drop zone. About the time Rock got lost on that same drop zone and almost got crushed to death by a heavy drop. About the time he told President Obama that the 18th Airborne Corps is the best unit in his military. Now, sometimes Rock would make you something a little bit stronger than coffee. Then he'd tell some other stories, like the time he said he single-handedly fought 35 bikers in a bar in Dallas, Texas. Now, I know that sounds hard to believe, but we're talking about Rock Merritt here. Many of you have been there, sitting in that living room that resembled an American War Museum, listening to those stories. While Rock was holding court, hours passed like mere seconds. Within his stories, I found a connection to our shared American heritage. In those moments, I felt this man's heart. That's what I'll remember about Rock. What I'll also remember is his love for our paratroopers. You all know that. You all saw it. Rock came to every ceremony. He came to every change of command. Even at age 95, he was at Pike Field for our brigade change of command responsibility in the heat of July. One thing that struck me, he never sat in the distinguished visitor seats. Wouldn't do it. 5 years ago, our protocol officer tried to show him that a designated VIP seat. Rock gave that officer a stern look and said, "I sit with the paratroopers." And he did, every time. I'll tell you this, he wouldn't leave that field until he shook every paratrooper's hand. He wouldn't let Diana take him home until he greeted every one of them. That's Rock Merritt to me. Empathy is a defining characteristic of the human. Our sense of nostalgia, the connection of our beating heart, it's what separates us from every other species. It's the gravitational pull that keeps us together, that drives society forward. Our shared humanity is so deeply embedded in our evolutionary biology that it defines who we are. So Rock Merritt was a warrior, yes. Rock Merritt was a World War II hero, yes. He was all of that, but he was also a man who exuded empathy. He was a man with a heart that beat so loudly and so strongly that when he died, France, the Netherlands, Washington, D.C., and hundreds of thousands of Americans in all of Fayetteville felt it. So today, we celebrate our tie to our past, and that tie is not gone. Not as long as we remember him, not as long as we keep him in our hearts, not as long as we tell his stories. We love you, Rock.